The work at the University of Pennsylvania says basically that we see the world based on what is called our interpretive style. And your interpretive style is the way you interpret things to yourself. So if you change the way you interpret things to yourself, your attitude toward everything changes. We also know that each person has a series of mini self-concepts. Every person has a self-concept which is like a thermostat. Your self-concept is your operating system. Everything that you produce on the outside is determined, modified, affected in some way by your self-concept. You cannot change what is being produced on the outside without changing your operating system. You always perform on the outside based on how you think on the inside. Now there are laws. The law of belief says that your beliefs become your realities. But the things that you believe may not necessarily be true. However, if you believe them intensely enough, they will become true for you. The law of attraction says that you attract into your life people and circumstances in harmony with your own thoughts. And your own thoughts may be positive or negative. They may be uplifting or depressing, but whatever, you'll attract people and circumstances just like them. The law of expectation says that your expectations tend to become your own self-fulfilling prophecies. In other words, what you expect to happen usually does. And we know that an attitude of confident expectation is a hallmark of highly successful people. They just expect to succeed more than they fail. They expect to keep making progress. They just confidently expect it. And surprise, surprise, your expectations affect your realities. One of the great rules, by the way, one of the most important of all principles, is to challenge your self-limiting beliefs. You see, we are all plagued by self-limiting beliefs. Beliefs that we tell ourselves, things that we tell ourselves to hold ourselves back. We hold ourselves back with self-limiting beliefs. We tell ourselves that we're limited in some way, when in reality, not true at all. In fact, Ernest Holmes, the great metaphysician, once said that all negativity is rooted essentially in the frustration of potential. We also know something else. We know that your self-concept is subjective. In other words, what you think and feel and believe about yourself is not based on reality. It's not based on fact. It's based on information that you have taken in and accepted as real, and as a result, it has become true for you. Most of our self-limiting beliefs have no basis whatever in reality. Think about that. You think that you're not good in some particular area of life? You think that your income is limited? It's subjective. Now let me explain to you what I mean. We each have a series of mini self-concepts. You have a self-concept for how you dress. You have a self-concept for how smart you are, how creative, how quickly you learn, what kind of a memory you have. You have a self-concept for how likable and personable you are with others. You have a self-concept for every part of your life that you consider important. By the way, men have a self-concept for driving. All men are excellent drivers in their self-concept. Women, by the way, have a self-concept for manners. Now, here's the point that turned my life around many years ago with regard to self-concept, and it has what is called a comfort zone. And your self-concept level of income is your comfort zone. And you strive to get into the comfort zone, and that we know two things about the human psyche. We strive to get into a comfort zone and then stay there, and we will resist any change that moves us out of our comfort zone, even positive change. The critical thing was that no matter how hard you work on the outside, nothing will change if you don't change your comfort zone, your self-concept on the inside. So, we know that your self-concept is made up of three parts. The first part, A, is your self-ideal. Your self-ideal is composed of your goals, your values, the qualities that you admire in yourself and others, your dreams, and your visions. Now here's an important point. This is your ideal. This is the person you would ideally like to be at some point in the future. Your ideal exerts an enormous influence on the direction that you go in life, on what you do in the present to assure that you arrive there in the future. What we know is this: successful people are very clear about who they are and where they're going and what they want to go and what to do and what they want to accomplish. They're very clear. And as a result, this acts almost like a magnet, and it pulls them forward in the direction of making their ideal into their real. What do we know about unsuccessful people? Is that they're very fuzzy about their ideals. In most cases, they have no ideals at all. They have no visions or goals. And if something else comes along, they go that direction or that direction. Successful people are crystal clear, and they move in a straight line toward being the very best person they can imagine being, and toward achieving the very best things that they can imagine achieving. So the greater clarity you have about who you are and what you would ideally like to be and have and do sometime in the future, the more likely it is that you will move rapidly toward your goals, and your goals will move more rapidly toward you. So your self-ideal is very important. The second is your self-image. Your self-image is the way you see yourself and the way you think about yourself. It determines how you perform on the outside. It's like you look into this mirror before you perform. If you see yourself as an outstanding sales professional, calm, confident, relaxed, positive, highly paid, then when you work and interact with clients, that's how you'll be. If you see yourself new and inexperienced and not knowing enough about your product, then that will come across. But it is what is going on the inside. If you change your mental pictures about yourself, if you begin to visualize and imagine yourself as you would like to be, that mental picture is accepted by your subconscious mind as a blueprint or a command, and you act on the outside consistent with the mental picture. Here's the key point. If you have something important coming up, before you go to bed at night, before an important day, the last thing you think about is you visualize and feed your mind with a picture of yourself performing at your very best. Then your subconscious mind takes that picture into the laboratory and works on it all night long. The next morning, next day, when you get out and you go into that situation, you'll find that you function beautifully. C is your self-esteem. Now, your self-esteem is really the core of everything. Your self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. Your self-esteem is the reactor core of your personality. It determines what kind of a person you are. People with high self-esteem are likable and personable. They get along well with other people. They feel good about themselves. They're seldom sick. They have high levels of energy. People with high self-esteem are the most desired and desirable people in our society. A person who has high self-esteem accepts responsibility for their life. And a person who accepts a high level of responsibility has high self-esteem. And the very best definition of self-esteem is how much you like yourself. And the reason that I emphasize this is because how important you feel you are is the critical determinant of how much success you'll have in life. How important you feel you are, how much you like yourself and respect yourself, is the critical determinant of everything that happens to you. Your level of self-esteem, how much you like and respect yourself, determines the entire quality of your life. And so the more you like yourself, the more you value yourself and see yourself as an important person, the more you like other people. And the more you like others, the more they like you, and they want to be around you and associated with you and buy from you and recommend you to their friends. There's another thing, is that self-esteem is very closely correlated with self-confidence. Is the more you like yourself, the more confidence you have. The more you like yourself, the more you bounce back from rejection and failure and disappointment. Now, everybody in life is going to get knocked down 1,000 times. The only question is how many times you get back up. And the more you like yourself, the more you realize that failure is never final, is that failure is merely a form of feedback, is that problems are simply learning experiences. So what you do is, if you really like yourself, you say, whoa, that hurt, ouch, get back into it. And so the more you like yourself, the better you perform at everything you do. It is almost like taking a mental vitamin pill. You take it and you like yourself. As a matter of fact, there's an interesting thing. Our greatest obstacles to success are our fears. Fears of failure, fears of loss, fears of making a mistake, and so on. But the more you like yourself, the less you fear. The higher your self-esteem, the lower your level of fears. And so whenever you're feeling a little nervous or uncomfortable, or you're making a presentation, say, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself. And what you do is you pump up your psyche. You pump up your self-esteem. And the wonderful thing is, do you know what the key to human relations is? The key to human relations is to make other people feel important. Dale Carnegie's breakthrough book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, says make others feel important. And how do you make others feel important? You build their self-esteem. You give them praise and appreciation and compliment. You thank them. You say kind things to them. Zig Ziglar once said this wonderful line. He said, you can never be too fair or too kind to other people. Never be too fair or too kind. When in doubt, always be even fairer, always be kinder. And why? Because when you're kind to people and generous to people and warm and complimentary, you build their self-esteem. And here's this wonderful thing in psychology, is everything you do that builds the self-esteem of another builds your own.
Everything that you do that makes another person feel happier about themselves make you feel happier about yourself. So you find that really successful people, everywhere they go, people just brighten up and smile because they're friendly, they're warm, they're courteous. I have met, and Chris talks about this, I have met and worked with many of the great billionaires, and most of them self-made billionaires in the United States. And I find that every single case, when you meet with these people, and sometimes I spent several hours with them talking about their business alone in a room with the telephones off, and I found that in every case, and I think of these people, they shine in my mind, they're all warm, friendly, kind. If you didn't know that these people were some of the richest people in the world, if you didn't know in advance, there's no way you could tell from meeting them because they're just such nice people. And so now which comes first? Being a really genuinely nice person and being a great success, or being a great success and then becoming a nice person? By the way, there's a rule that says this: the success does not change you, it just makes you more of what you already are. So if you're a really nice person, you become successful, be a nicer person. If you're a jerk and you become successful, you become a bigger jerk. Okay, anyway. And whenever you feel yourself a little bit down, just say, hey, I like myself, I like myself. Failure is only feedback. Learn from every experience. Get up, get going, and so on.
Now, when I first learned this, I said, it can't be that simple. And yet I started saying this 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 times a day. Here's an interesting point. When you first say, I like myself, sometimes you'll feel a little bit funny inside. This was my experience. And then I studied it in psychology, and I find that if you have old garbage stored in your subconscious mind, which says that you don't like yourself, or which is critical or skeptical of yourself, when the new message comes in, it creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, or two symbols clashing. The new old symbol and the new symbol, clang. And the clang is a feeling of discomfort. Whenever you say something to yourself that is inconsistent with old garbage, you feel uncomfortable and a little bit like an imposter, like a fraud, like it's not right. However, if you keep saying, I like myself, you drive it deeper and deeper into your subconscious mind, and you like yourself more and more and more. And eventually it overrides all the old negative messages. And everything that we do has to be aimed at increasing the amount at which we like ourselves. Why is it that we strive to be excellent in our fields? Because you can never be happy and you can never have high self-esteem if you feel inferior in your field. The absence of a commitment to excellence is an acceptance of mediocrity. When you become one of the top 10% in your field, you really like yourself. You feel good about yourself. People respect and esteem you and look up to you, and they ask for your advice. And your bosses respect and esteem you and want to take you out for lunch. And your customers like you and want to buy from you and recommend you to others. So the reason we strive for excellence is because excellence reinforces and supports our self-esteem. You can't have self-esteem all by itself floating in the air. You can't have high self-esteem detached from reality. You can't be a jerk and a failure and have high self-esteem. So what you do is you constantly, when you have goals, you have higher self-esteem. Because only people who have high self-esteem set high goals for themselves. So the very act of setting high goals creates what is called the reversibility effect. If people with high self-esteem set goals, and you want to have high self-esteem, you set goals, and it causes you to have high self-esteem. If people have high self-esteem, get along really well with others, then concentrate on getting along really well with others, and surprise, surprise, they will treat you well, and your self-esteem will go up. Everything is back and forth, windshield wiper. And your whole life must become a constant process of upgrading your self-esteem in every area of life that's important to you, and you will accomplish extraordinary things. And it starts by saying, I like myself. If you tell your children, I love you, you're the most wonderful children in the world. If you tell your spouse that he or she is the most wonderful person in the world, they like themselves more. They like themselves more, they like you more. If they like you more, you like them more. You can actually dramatically enhance the quality of your relationships with the people around you by saying things to them that cause them to like and respect themselves even more. Because everything that you do that causes another person to feel better about themselves causes you to feel better about yourself. We are constructed by nature in the most remarkable way, as you cannot uplift another person without it simultaneously uplifting yourself. The flip side is also true. We cannot do something negative or say something negative about another person without tearing down ourselves. is the more you like yourself, the less you fear failure. The more you like yourself, the less you fear rejection. The more you like yourself, the less fears you have. So when you say, I like myself, and I can do it, and I don't have to do anything I don't want to do, when you talk to yourself in a positive way, you think, feel, and act in a positive and constructive way. 95% of your emotions at any moment are determined by how you talk to yourself. If you talk to yourself in a positive, constructive, dynamic way, I like myself, I'm the best, I love my work, I can do anything I put my mind to do. If you talk to yourself like that, then your self-esteem gets higher and higher and your fears get lower and lower. But when you do have little fears, you confront them, you counterattack them with, first of all, taking charge of your mind and then doing what it is you fear until the fear is gone. Right? All right. And this is the key to high success.